Developing at this hour, the Secret Service is investigating after someone crashed a car into a barricade near the White House. The Secret Service confirms the driver of the car was detained and is facing criminal charges, but no confirmation yet on motivations, and the scene has been declared safe. But this comes as increased tensions and other incidents involving suspected terrorism have unfolded since the war with Iran started. Just yesterday in Toronto, Canada, someone fired shots at the U.S. consulate. There were no reports of injuries or damage to the building in the city's downtown area. Canadian authorities were asked about security concerns in the investigation.
I don't have any information to provide at this time on any sleeper cells that may or may not exist in Canada. Suffice to say that our CSIS counterparts and the INSETs across the country are actively investigating matters such as this, and we will continue to do so.
And in New York, federal prosecutors say two men were inspired by ISIS when they threw homemade bombs at a crowd on Saturday. The 18- and 19-year-old are charged with using a weapon of mass destruction for throwing improvised explosive devices outside Gracie Mansion. That's the home of New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. I'm joined now by Dan Byman, a director at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Dan, thank you so much for your time today. Just how big of a threat are we talking about here as this war against Iran continues?
So the threat has increased, but from a U.S. homeland point of view, I think it's important to say that there are a lot of limits as well. Iran, of course, has been a supporter of terrorism for many decades, and the U.S. government has developed a lot of expertise on this and has devoted a lot of resources to stopping Iran. So while there is more danger than usual, there is also a lot of effort into trying to disrupt any plot.
But we've also seen more violence here in the U.S. with the recent mass shooting in Austin, Texas, that killed 3 people there. So are these clear indications that these attacks are reactions to the war or from more organized groups?
So far, at least, it doesn't appear to be organized groups. It appears to be individuals who read something online or are otherwise inspired and either are acting on their own or in small groups. But heightened tension, of course, around the world makes people more likely to act in the name of a particular cause.
Yeah.
However, the flavor of the cause varies. Sometimes it's Israel-Palestine, sometimes it's domestic politics. Right now, the war with Iran, of course, is dominating headlines.
And is there something you think the U.S. government can do or is doing to keep people not just safe physically, but also mentally? Because I'm sure as people watch and hear of these news stories, there's that sense of, am I safe? Are my kids safe? Is my family safe?
So, as I mentioned, there's been a lot of resourcing of the Iran threat really for decades, and that's very positive. However, unfortunately, the Trump administration has cut a lot of the expertise in the FBI, the Department of Justice, and Homeland Security on threats like Iran. So something the government can do is to start to improve resourcing on this area. And as your question indicated, there also needs to be strategic communication with the U.S. people to let them know the level of threat and, very importantly, to reassure them that the government has taken this threat seriously and has devoted a lot of resources to stopping it.
Okay. Dan Byman, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your insight.